Heyo everyone, I'm Kronos, and this is part 1 of the Baldur's Gate 3 Honor Mode Glitchless achievement tutorial series. This run is done on the most current patch, patch 8, and should work on all versions of the game. This route is a bit slower compared to my typical speedruns, but much more consistent for those that are looking to getting the Foehammer achievement for beating Baldur's Gate 3 on Honor Mode, or if you're just looking for a unique way to play the game. While it is a glitchless tutorial series, I will also include some glitches as alternative strategies along with some small alternative routes for some of those people that are using controllers as well. For this part, I will cover setup and all of Act 1. If you want to do a practice run, or want to play Honor Mode with saves, you can follow this rule set right here. So note that this will not get you the achievement, but it is basically the same as playing on Honor Mode. So if you want to practice for Honor Mode, you can go ahead and choose the custom difficulty and choose these settings. So we'll choose the Honor rule set, Tactician for all of these extra settings right here. We're going to go ahead and change the camp cost multiplier to 2 and the trader price modifier to 3. And having all of these settings allows us to play Honor Mode without a single save file, which we can check here. So if you want to do the achievement, make sure you just select Honor Mode, but if you just want to play around with this, you can choose the custom mode, and it's a good way for me to demonstrate multiple different routes that we can have here. Now I'll go over character creation. So we're going to choose a pretty unique character here. We're going to be choosing our origin as the Dark Urge, and this allows us to bypass some areas of Act 3 by skipping parts of Orin's questline. And while we are able to do that, it's going to come with a couple consequences in Act 2 with the cutscenes, but we're going to have to work around it in a pretty unique way. So I will cover all of that in part 2, where we go through Act 2's shenanigans. So for our race, we're going to go ahead and choose any tall character. So that includes all of these except for Gnome and Halfling. These are too short for all the jumping that we're going to be doing in the run, since your height does change your movement speed in the game, which is pretty important. For my recommendation is to choose the human character, just because of the nature proficiency to help a lot in Act 1. So you could choose any other class, but I would highly recommend choosing a human here. For our class, we're going to choose a sorcerer. This is for the spells and for the unique class features of these extra sorcery points that we are able to use to modify our spells. So we're going to make sure we choose a sorcerer. For our cantrips, all these cantrips don't really matter, although I would highly recommend choosing Minor Illusion for one part of the game, which can kind of be glitchy to some people that we're going to be using in Act 2, but otherwise I would also choose a damage cantrip such as Firebolt or Ray of Frost. All of these other ones don't really matter, so you can just go ahead and choose whichever ones you want. For our spells, we're going to go ahead and choose Enhanced Sleep and Featherfall. These are your bread and butter spells for all the movement you'll be doing in the run, since Enhanced Sleep and Featherfall, while out of combat, are ritual spells, so you can basically use them whenever you want, and it allows you to traverse very far distances very quickly and get to hard to reach places, which is very important in the run. For our subclass, we're going to go ahead and choose Storm Sorcery. And this is just because of our ability to fly, which is very useful for parts of Act 2, which some people might say is bypassing the game for one of the sections, but it shouldn't matter, and there is an alternative route for that, so it isn't crucial. But I would highly recommend choosing the Storm Sorcery anyways, just because of it. Our background is locked to the Haunted one since we're the Dark Urge. And for our abilities, we're going to go ahead and give ourselves maximum strength of 17. So this allows us to get the most jump distance, since strength affects how far you can jump. And it just helps for some of the checks that we're going to do in the game as well. For our next stat, which is Dexterity, we're going to have that at 16. And this gives us very important initiative rolls, which helps a lot in a lot of the combat sections that we'll be having in the run. So make sure you max out Dexterity at 16. And we're going to go ahead and max out Intelligence for 15. And this just gives us a bonus to one of our nature checks early in the run. If you don't worry about the nature check, then you can also max out Charisma, which is used later in the run, and we will be re-speccing our character into Charisma in the future. So just keep that in mind as well. For our skill proficiencies, we're going to just go ahead and choose Nature for our bonus proficiency here. And what this allows us to do is pass a nature skill check that we have early on in the run, and that really does help a lot with it, since getting a +2 to one of our nature check rolls is super crucial for that, although it's not 100% necessary. So once we do all that, you can go ahead and edit your appearance and whatever, all of that doesn't matter, and you can just go ahead and name your character. Your Dream Guardian doesn't matter, and continue on to the prologue. So once we enter the prologue, we're going to go ahead and skip all this cutscene stuff, and most of the time for any of these dialogue options, unless I specify for any of them, I will say just choose option 1, since most of it doesn't matter unless it's a crucial dialogue choice or decision that we need to make. So now we're going to go ahead and use Enhanced Sleep and Featherfall, and this is going to be used basically whenever we're out of combat, just so we're able to jump very far distances. And as you can see, our character can jump very far just because we have a high amount of strength. And this is a lot longer than what most people generally see, but that's just because we have max strength. And we're just going to make our way all the way to Lae'zel in this cutscene right here by just jumping all the way to it. And we're going to have our first encounter here with imps. And once again, just choose dialogue option 1, skip all of this. And we have our first combat sequence. So before we kill any of these things, we're going to just quickly check this Mind Flayer corpse to see if it has a speed potion. If it does, pick it up, otherwise just ignore it. The speed potions are very crucial for later in the run, and we're going to want to have at least 1 is required, but 2 will be very, very, very nice to have, so I would highly recommend getting at least 2. And we will also use our nature check to get additional speed potions if we want as well. So since there isn't any here with our character, we're going to go ahead and just swing at these imps with our main character. And since we have such a high amount of strength, most of the time we're able to knock everything out in one hit with both Lae'zel and our Tav here, or our Dirge. So once we kill both of them, we just end our turn and go ahead and kill the other one as well. And if we don't kill them all in 1 turn or 2 turns, that's fine. You should be able to kill them very quickly, and if any of your characters die for any reason, you can just go ahead and revive them, since it's not that big of a deal. From there, we're just going to make our way all the way through to the end sequence of the prologue, and make sure if your Enhanced Sleep and Featherfall run out, just to recast them. And here we don't want Lae'zel to follow us into combat, so we're just going to ungroup her with us. If you want to restore your health or anything, just use this transponder thing here, or the healing thing there. And we're just going to go ahead and reach right before the sphincter here. So once we enter this area, this starts the final combat sequence of the prologue, and we're going to go ahead and show two different methods. One of them is more glitchy than the other, so I'll show you the glitchless one first. So for this, we're going to go ahead and make sure our spells are active before we enter, which is Enhanced Sleep and Featherfall. And I'm going to create a save here so I can go back to it to show the other route. And once we enter in, we're going to go ahead and jump all the way right next to the Mind Flayer and the Commander's Zulk here. And what we're going to do is just jump as far as we can without moving, and then just walk a tiny bit forwards. We don't want to walk into this middle platform area here. So just walk a little bit forwards and stop right here before we reach the cutscene where all these other enemies will spawn in. So once we do that, we're going to go ahead and end our turn, and all these guys will make their move. And since we're far enough away, these two will normally not attack us. They'll try to dash over to us and not get near enough. And this imp will attack us, but normally it will miss or deal like 1 or 2 damage, so we don't have to worry about it. So if any of these enemies end up getting too close to you, you can use disengage to retreat safely so none of these guys can do a retaliation attack on you. But if none of them are close enough, you can just go ahead and jump all the way to the transponder here. So once again, you can also disengage just to make sure. And that does give us a bit more movement here, so we're going to just jump as far as we can. It hits this cutscene right here, and you can sometimes spawn right next to this Hellboard right here, so you have to be careful. And since we did use disengage, we're not going to get any retaliation actions from him. And just use the transponder. And that reaches the end of the prologue section in this way. So now I'll show you the method which is a bit more glitchy for this section. So we're going to go ahead and use Enhanced Sleep and Featherfall here. And we're going to triple cast dash by casting dash once out of combat, turning turn-based mode on, and casting dash again here. So this gives us 2 casts of dash, and once we enter this cutscene here, we're able to have another cast of dash to give us basically enough movement speed to go very far distances. So we're going to go ahead and run around these enemies here, just make sure that we don't encounter any of them. And then we're going to be able to jump basically all the way to the transponder here. So once we make sure you don't move all the way to the distance where you can no longer jump. And we can just jump to the transponder and use it right there. Now we're in Act 1, and there's a couple small things that we need to do in Act 1, but most of it is pretty much gathering some materials that we're going to use later on. And there's a couple other small tidbits of characters that we need to recruit as well. But otherwise, we're just making our way towards the mountain pass as soon as possible, since pretty much all of Act 1 is unnecessary for progressing. So here, just make sure we have Enhanced Sleep and Featherfall active at all times, and we're going to go ahead and make our way to Gale. There's a couple small tidbits to note. We want to make sure we're away from these intellect devourers here, since we don't want to start combat with them. And we're just going to jump all the way up top here. And once we reach this sigil circle that Gale's in, we're going to have our first big dice roll check of the run, which is a strength check. And because our character has such a high amount of strength, we can just choose option 4 here and do a DC 7 check with a +3 modifier. So we just have a 80% chance of success, and we have 1 point of inspiration to use. So basically 2 80% chance rolls. If we do fail both of them, then tough luck. you'll probably need to restart the run, but it's early on enough that we're fine with just having this as our big skill check early on in the run. So here we just recruit Gale here, so just choose option 1 to go through all of his dialogue and get him to join our party here. So once we do that, make sure we don't have him group up with us so we can progress on our own, and just make our way down in this direction so we can check these Mind Flayer corpses. So we're going to be checking them for speed potions, so if we don't find any, just move on to this third one here. And for this third one, we're going to go ahead and kill it. Make sure to kill it and not talk to it, otherwise you might have some difficulties. And yeah, so once we pick up the speed potions, you should have between 0 to 2 speed potions. If you have 2, you can progress and not worry about having to do all this stuff that I'm doing here. But if you don't have 2, I would highly recommend doing this stuff that I will do right now. So if you don't have enough speed potions, you can go ahead and follow this route. We're going to go ahead and jump towards Astarion right here, but not recruit him since we don't want him in our party really. You can recruit him as a backup option, but we're going to just go ahead and jump down towards this rock here. And because we're a human with high nature proficiency, we can just go ahead and walk up to the rock, and most of the time it will pass the check. And since we passed the check, we're able to move this rock, open the chest, and it has 2 speed potions right here. So yeah, if we are able to pass the check, just grab it and just jump back the way we came. So if we don't pass the check, then there's also other alternatives. We can go ahead and get Astarion recruited and join our party. Just make sure to dismiss him once he does pass the check. And he also has a 50-50 chance at discovering this nature check as well, since he's also human. And we can also get Gale and or Shadowheart as well, if required or necessary. But it's early on enough in the route where if you feel like restarting it, you can also just do that. So once we grab all the speed potions that we need, we can just go ahead and make our way up towards the mountain pass once again. So we're going to go ahead, make sure you have Enhanced Sleep Featherfall. We're going to jump towards the grove, but we don't want to hit the grove cutscene, since if we're able to skip the cutscene, we get a bit of bonus experience, since it counts us as having passed that area. And just because the bonus experience helps us a lot in the future. And it does also waste a bit of time here. So we're going to go ahead and jump into this bush specifically right here. Basically, we don't want to walk in any area towards this part, since that will trigger the cutscene. We're going to go ahead and jump up top on this rock formation right here. And right here is a skeleton. And we're going to go ahead and pick up this silver pendant. And this silver pendant has guidance, which is very crucial for some of the skill checks later on in the run. So we're going to go ahead and pick it up and just go ahead and make our way down once again. So we're going to jump down towards this area and jump down here. And since we did that without hitting the cutscene, we get a bonus 10 experience, which is pretty useful. If you don't get the experience, you should be fine in this route. Just make sure you grab some along the way by doing some other random things, but I believe you should be able to get enough in this route here. So once again, we're still making our way towards Mountain Pass. There's a couple cutscenes that you can encounter here, one with the goblins of Blighted Village, one with Auntie Ethel down here. So just make sure you're jumping in between them so that we don't encounter them. So just follow this path right here. And we're going to make a small detour here. Normally, in most speedruns and stuff, we would just go ahead and enter the cave through this way, but we're going to want to grab a pretty important item for Gale here, since he needs an artifact for him to progress his questline. So we're going to go ahead and jump towards the Goblin Village, but right behind the windmill here, where the Blighted Village is, and that should be all the way up top, right here. And we're going to go ahead and use this wooden hatch. So this is in the vision of these enemies right here, but since we're not close enough, we're not going to trigger the cutscene by standing here, and just enter the wooden hatch. Here we're going to grab this chest here, in particular the Speedy Lightfoot boots. We can grab whatever other items if we want to sell them in the future, since we do need gold, but it's not entirely required either. Once we grab those items, we're going to go ahead and make our way back the way we came from, which is towards that cave that we normally use. So we're just going to jump down and all the way towards the cave. So once again, jump this direction. Make sure not to get entered through the Goblin Village, since it will also give us more dialogue and encounter stuff that we need to pass. And just jump all the way towards this cave entrance. And we're going to walk up right before all this webbing. And this is because there's a bunch of bombs in this area, so we're just going to navigate through them all by jumping once to this bench right here, or this table, since there's no bombs in this section right here, and jump past this barrel right here, and we should have enough strength with Enhanced Leap and Featherfall to skip past all of that section. Once we get here, we're just going to make our way to Mountain Pass, just keep jumping, and we're going to be able to recruit Shadowheart along the way here if you haven't recruited her already. She appears right here, and we're just going to recruit her with dialogue option number 1 that appears, and skip through all of this cutscene stuff that occurs. Once we go through all that, we just use the Mountain Pass and enter into a bunch of cutscenes that we have to go through. So here we have Alfira's cutscenes, and Alfira appears because of her dirge, and she's going to unfortunately die during this section here. Now we're going to jump to Withers and get rid of his dialogue conversation by just leaving after talking to him with option 6. And for Raphael, we're going to just go ahead and talk to him with option 1. You can skip past all of these dialogue options with some trickery with spells, but I'm not going to go through all of that, since, yeah, it's kind of glitchy. But yeah, we just go through their dialogue, and we're going to go ahead and long rest. And this goes through a bunch of cutscenes again with Alfira. Just keep choosing option 1. And we're going to also get cutscenes with the Dream Guardian as well. And this is just going to get us all the way into the next day, where we're going to do a very important level up. So, once again, just go through this cutscene. We get a cutscene of Shadowheart and Gale in the day after we killed Alfira. And we're going to go ahead and hit level up here. And this is for Fog Cloud, which is very crucial for passing through the Mountain Pass. Then we're going to go ahead and choose Twin Spell and Extended Spell, and these are going to be important later on for our multiple person casts here in the future. And yeah, click Accept and skip past all of these other level ups, since we'll be saving them for some shopping stuff in Act 2 as well. So once we do that, we go ahead and leave camp and enter the Mountain Pass. So in the Mountain Pass, we're going to go ahead and recruit Lae'zel. This is entirely optional, but it does make it a bit easier in the long run, so I would just recommend doing it. She isn't required, but it is just nice to have her. So we're going to go ahead and make our way down and just recruit her. She appears right here, and talk to her and use option 3. And that recruits her, joins our party. And now we have to make sure we go through this section. There's a battle that occurs here that we can skip with Fog Cloud, so you have to be careful with all your timing and stuff here since it is a pretty tight timing. So we're going to go ahead and make sure our entire party is separated so our character is able to go through without worry of all our companions following us. Make sure our hand sleep and feather fall is active, and the enemies will appear once we jump towards this log here. So once again, once we jump here, we're going to immediately cast Fog Cloud right on this near this pole here, and this, make sure you don't cast it on top of these enemies, and just jump into the Fog Cloud and out of the Fog Cloud as soon as possible. And what this does is skips this entire enemy encounter since they can't see us in the Fog Cloud, and we just jump all the way down to Act 2 if the Shadow Curse lands. But before we fully finish this section here, we do have to do a bit of backtracking as well to help progress Gale's questline here. So once we load into Act 2, we're going to go ahead and go through some of Gale's dialogue options. So Gale is going to have an exclamation marker on his head about his issues and his requirement of magical items. So here we can just use option 1 to skip past the Goblin's dialogue. And we're going to go ahead and talk to Gale here. And we just give him a magic item by choosing option 1 for each of these options. Give Gale the speedy light feet boots, not the silver pendant. So make sure it's the boots. We give those boots over, and that should fix Gale's problem. So now we say he says thank you, and we're going to just go ahead and make our way back to the mountain pass. And this allows us to talk to Elminster, which is very important in getting Gale's ability to blow himself up at the end of the run. So with Gale, we're going to just go ahead and walk with Gale to backtrack to Elminster. And just doing this allows us to skip a bunch of extra dialogue that Elminster has with our dirge here. And we're going to go ahead and leave camp as well. So when we do that, Gale has an exclamation marker, and I don't believe it's entirely necessary to get rid of it, but you can just choose option 1 to skip through all of it to talk to him. And yeah, once we do all that, we just head back to Act 2, and that is it for Part 1. That's it for Part 1 of the Baldur's Gate 3 Honor Mode Glitchless Achievement Tutorial series. Hope you all enjoyed it. If you liked this video and want to see more, make sure to like and subscribe. And if you have any questions or comments about this route or want to learn more about it, leave a comment down below and I'll try to answer it. Thanks for watching, and good luck on your runs.